Are you feeling overwhelmed trying to pick the perfect homeschool curriculum? Maybe you're worried that if you choose the wrong one, your kids will fall behind or that you'll waste a bunch of money. Friend, you're not alone. This is one of the top stress points I hear from moms. But here's the good news. Curriculum is just a tool. You're not locked in forever, and you can absolutely make confident choices without getting lost in all of the options. In this episode, I'm sharing what I've learned over 20 years of homeschooling, the questions to ask, the mistakes to avoid, and how to choose a curriculum that fits both you and your family. Hey, homeschool mom, I'm Erika Sagert on the Intentional Homeschooler Podcast with more actionable steps and encouragement for your homeschooling journey so you can confidently and intentionally homeschool your children without sacrificing your sanity. Grab a pen and paper, your favorite cup of brew, and let's get started. I still remember when I was a brand new homeschool mom, completely unsure of what I was doing. The first big question on my mind was, what curriculum should I use? And I'll admit, I was terrified of choosing wrong. I thought that once I made the choice, I'd be stuck with it forever. Looking back, I can laugh a little because that's just not true. Curriculum is a tool, a guide for your days, but it is not set in stone. Today, I want to help you cut through the overwhelm. I'll share my personal stories about how I picked my first curriculum and how I even let my kids weigh in on the curriculum choices as they got older. I'll give you my top 5 questions to ask before you buy and a big picture way to think about curriculum that will take away a lot of the stress. First, I'd like to talk about a mindset shift. Curriculum is just a tool. The first thing that I want you to hear and really believe is that curriculum is not your master. It's not the end-all, be-all of homeschooling. It's simply a tool to help you teach your kids. I can't tell you how many moms I've talked to who freeze in decision-making because they think, if I choose the wrong curriculum, I'll ruin everything. But you can switch if something isn't working. You don't have to stay stuck. In fact, most homeschool moms I know have switched curriculum for at least one subject at some point, and that's okay. Think of curriculum like a roadmap. It shows you a path, but you might take a detour if you find a better way for your family. All right, I want to now share a little story about my first curriculum choosing. So when I first started homeschooling, I went straight to a friend's house who had been homeschooling for a few years. I was desperate to learn from someone who had been in my shoes. She quickly handed me a rainbow resource catalog. It was a very thick catalog at the time, and I felt like I had just struck gold. So this catalog had descriptions of the curriculum and reviews for every single one. I spent hours reading through it, highlighting, making notes, trying to wrap my mind around what would work best for my kids. That catalog became my go-to tool every single year. I still use it to this day, obviously the newer version, especially when I'm coaching homeschooling families. And now they even have an online version, which makes it even easier to read reviews and compare options. If you've never checked it out, I highly recommend it as a starting point. Okay, the third thing I want to talk about today is to know your child and know yourself. So before you can even open a catalog or start Googling, I encourage you to sit down and make a list of your child's strengths and weaknesses. think about their learning style. Are they visual learners who love colorful charts and pictures? Or do they thrive on listening and discussing? In other words, are they auditory learners? Or do they need more hands-on activities like tactile learning, who need to touch, build, and explore? And don't forget about your teaching style. Are you a sit down and let's read this together type of mom? Or do you prefer something that's more independent? Both matter and need to be considered. All right, next, I want to tell you a little bit of a story about how I let my kids choose some of the curriculum as they got older. So as they got older, I learned how powerful it can be to ask for their input. I'll never forget when I asked one of my high schoolers how he wanted to approach American history. I personally heavily leaned towards a hands-on approach because I love making history interactive and fun. But when I asked him, would you prefer a hands-on history or a textbook history curriculum? He said, Mom, I just want a textbook. I thought, oh no, that's going to kill history. It'll be too dry. But I listened to him, and you know what? It worked beautifully for him. He wanted something straightforward and structured. And you know what? He thrived with it. Fast forward to today. He is a huge history buff as a young adult. Clearly, that boring textbook approach was exactly what he needed. That moment taught me that listening to your child's preferences can make a big difference, especially as they grow. All right, so now point number 5, I want to share with you 4 big factors to consider. So when choosing curriculum, I recommend focusing on these 4 things. Number 1, learning style. So does this curriculum match how my child learns best? Number 2, teaching style. Does this curriculum fit how you naturally teach or the time that it takes to teach it that you can realistically commit to? And then the third big factor is worldview. So does it reflect your values, or is it at least neutral enough that you're comfortable using it? And the last thing in this 4 big factors to consider, number 4, is budget. Can you afford it? And maybe can you resell it to help offset the cost for next year? Most curriculum has great resale value, especially if you take care of it and if you turn it over quickly. So don't hang on to it for too many years, but say you're done with level 5, but you need to buy level 6. So sell level 5 and get level 6. Even if you have younger children, I recommend selling it pretty quickly, and then you can get the appropriate level when your younger children get there. But that way it holds its value better. If you hang on to it too long, it just gets outdated and you won't be able to recoup as much of the cost. eBay is a great place to do that, or there are other, local groups where you can post your homeschool curriculum. But definitely, reuse it by selling it, and then that way it gives you some budget for your next year's curriculum. All right, now I would like to talk about some common mistakes I see. So I hope these will save you from some common pitfalls. So don't choose something just because it worked for your friend. Okay, your friend's family is different. They might be your friend, but there are lots of different things going on in her family than in yours. Okay, the second pitfall, ignoring your child's learning style and personality. I mentioned that earlier, but it's really important for you to look at both the child's learning style and your personality in teaching. Another mistake I see is to try to replicate a traditional school classroom at home. There might be aspects of your homeschooling that will replicate a traditional school classroom, but by and large, you're not trying to replicate traditional school at home. It's homeschooling. And another pitfall is overspending just because you feel like more expensive means better. I promise you, it does not mean it's better just because it costs more. Instead, I encourage you to talk with other homeschool moms, ask questions, and read trusted reviews. Websites like the Rainbow Resource and Kathy Duffy Reviews are fantastic for this. All right, my next point, number 7, when to stick with the curriculum versus when to switch. So you've probably hit moments when you think, oh, this curriculum isn't working. But before you just jump ship, I want you to ask yourself, is it the curriculum or is it just the subject? Some subjects are tough no matter what curriculum you use. Another question to ask before you switch is there a way I can adjust how we're using this material before I switch? So when is it time to change? Well, I say, if a curriculum consistently causes tears, frustration, or total disengagement, it might be time. But with math especially, I usually recommend sticking with one program for consistency. All right, another point, number 8, faith and worldview. So for many of us as homeschoolers, this is a big factor. Before I commit to a curriculum, I look at the scope and sequence to see if it aligns with our Christian values. Now, it doesn't have to perfectly match. In fact, I actually think it's better if it doesn't perfectly match. We aren't robots, and it's going to be pretty difficult to find something that matches perfectly. In fact, I think there's value in discussing differing perspectives with your kids. But I don't want a curriculum that's constantly at odds with our beliefs. So this is a highly personal decision, but it is worth considering and thinking about when you're looking at curriculum. All right, my last point today is point number 9, my top 5 questions to ask before you buy. So to wrap this up, here are 5 questions that will guide you toward a confident choice. Number 1, does this curriculum fit my child's learning style? Number 2, does it suit my teaching style and schedule? Number 3, does it align with my family's values and goals? Number 4, can I afford it and possibly resell it later? And number 5, will it help us move toward our bigger homeschool vision, or will it add stress and busy work? Curriculum choices matter, but they don't have to paralyze you. Do your research, prayerfully consider your options, talk to other moms, and then choose with confidence. And remember, you can always pivot. What matters most is not the perfect curriculum, but the relationship you're building with your child and the education that you're crafting together. If you're still on the fence about homeschooling, don't wait. Take my free, personalized, AI-powered assessment, Can I Really Homeschool? It's quick, it's personalized, and could be the clarity that you've been praying for. The link to this assessment is in the show notes, so go check it out right after this episode. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as right here, where a brand new episode drops every other Thursday. Until next time, you've got this, Mom.